Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Yellow Room Podcast. I'm Nika Hansen, your host, and I want you all to be great. The Yellow Room is all about empowering you to unleash your full potential in every single aspect of your life. And I hope that you've received just that up until this point. If you consider yourself a part of this great Yellow Room community, be sure to do me a few favors. First, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Secondly, if you enjoy any of the episodes that I put out or today's episode, help me to extend my reach by sharing it with a friend or two. Again, thank you for tuning in. Welcome back to another episode of the Love Series. Ladies, we will be talking about how to be a good wife on today's episode. We have a very special guest, a woman that I met probably about a year ago. At this time, we were both speaking at a women's empowerment conference. And I remember just being so intrigued by, her experiences, what she had to offer, and all the amazing things that she's doing. She's a true gem, and she's such a poised woman. I love it, love it, love it. Today's guest is actually Kimberly Cleveland. She is a phenomenal woman, and she knows all about being a great wife. She is a marriage and good thing guru, international speaker, author, blogger, ladies ministry leader, and event producer. She has been featured in several magazines, to name a few: SwagHer magazine, Glambitious magazine, the I Am Dr. Sharon Radio Show, Cheryl Wood's Impact the World Radio Show, and Creating Your Seat at the Table live radio show. Having been a wife and experiencing the pain of divorce, she knows what to do and what not to do. She has spent 20 years studying, teaching, mentoring, and coaching on the keys to marital success. Not so long ago, she took a leap of faith and found purpose through her pain and passion and created the Wife University. She specializes in compassionate, heartfelt, and powerful personal development. Kimberly encourages you to start with a healthy love of self and to heal from the pain from your past. She also equips you with a strong spiritual foundation on the divine design for marriage and provides you the steps to develop positive change in yourself and your relationships to help you reach marital success. For those single women who are listening, who are looking to get married, she provides you with the tools and strategies needed to prepare for marriage and become amazing wives. She supports wives through the difficulties that they face in their marriage and challenges them to always take their wife skills to the next level. I don't know about you, but I'm excited. Sit tight. As excited as I am for today's episode, as a newly married woman, I know I do not get everything right. I don't cross my T's and dot my I's. Every single time. I'm a work in progress, so I'm very excited about today's episode. And then for single women, if you aspire to be married one day, and I think all of us can look forward to marriage and say that we want to be a good wife. I think you're a little odd if you're like, I want to be a bad wife. So this episode is beneficial for us all. I actually think it'll be therapy for me. So Kimberly, again, thank you so much for joining in on today's episode and sharing your knowledge and your experiences, all of that great stuff. So if you could please just introduce yourself, tell the Yellow Room family a little more about who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
Absolutely. So excited to be here this morning and the opportunity to be able to talk to you about what I do. I am Kimberly Cleveland, that good thing guru. I am here to support single women become and married women be that good thing. every woman should want to be that good thing. You know, the word says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. Amen. Whether you want to be married or not, every woman should want to be that good thing. She wants to be that Midas touch. Whenever she comes into the room and she leaves, it is blessed because she has been there. So I'm here to help women become that good thing. And I really started my organization, which is the Wife University. I birthed it actually out of my pain. My passion was birthed out of my pain. I've always wanted to be a wife, always wanted to be a mother. It was my greatest aspiration. I knew that before I knew what I wanted to do career-wise. I was raised by my grandparents who were married over 60 years for the first 6 years of my life. And I saw my grandmother be that amazing wife. And I just knew that I wanted. That was a deep desire God placed in my heart. But unfortunately, my journey was one of 2 divorces. So you can imagine how devastated I was after having gone through 2 divorces and that being my greatest desire. And God revealed to me when I was down on my knees in that state of depression and just wondering, why couldn't I get this right? He revealed to me that we don't spend enough time preparing for marriage. We spend so much time investing in our education so that we can have that good job and have that excellent career. We spend 12 years in high school. Many of us go on to be have that graduate degree, undergraduate degree. But how much time do we really focus and are intentional about the most important role, one of the most important roles that we'll have in our life, and that's being a husband or a wife. And so I have endeavored to help women over the last 20 years and support them in their preparation of becoming amazing wives and helping wives take their game to that next level, to be that good thing. So that's why I do what I do. I believe emphatically in the institution of marriage. I do not believe in divorce, but as we know, many marriages, 50 to 60% go through divorce. Why is that? We have to ask our question that. And I submit that the first thing is we need to go back and do more preparation.
Well, amen to all of what you said. My heart was like smiling at every single thing that you said. And I love coming in contact with women whose passion is birthed out of their pain. I just think that it's so it's indescribable. I'm all ears. I am so all ears. And I just wanted to start by asking you, what do you think makes a woman an exceptional wife? What is this good thing that you speak of?
Right. Well, there's many things that go into becoming that good thing and becoming an amazing wife. It really starts with first becoming a good woman. And that's really where I start when I start with my platform of the good thing. You know, when he finds you, of course, you're a woman and you have to become a good woman first. And that means you need to be healed. I always start when people come to me and they say, well, what's the first step of preparation in terms of marriage? I say, well, first you really need to heal from any traumas that you may have had in your past, any bad relationships that have caused distrust, because you need to be happy and healthy and whole first. You really need to understand who God has called you to be as a woman. He did not create you as a man. He created you as a woman. And so really that is the first step. But some of the qualities that you need to make sure that you are instilling in yourself and grooming in yourself as you become to be a wife is you need to learn to be supportive, right? Marriage is a ministry, right? Many people don't realize that, but marriage is a ministry. You're there to attend to a need of your spouse. You're there to provide something that's necessary, right, in their journey. So you need to learn to be supportive. Number 2 is you need to be respectful and honor. Women, they desire to be loved. Not that men don't desire to be loved, but also men have a need to be respected. So you need to be grooming respect. Number 3 would be to love unconditionally, right? Many people think that they can love, but really love is demonstrated by action. It's also demonstrated during those hard times, during those times where you may not agree. And so you really need to work on loving unconditionally. Also, one thing that's very important as a wife, and again, understanding your role as a wife, is to be that encourager. You know, God said it's not good for man to be alone. Why? He knew that life was going to be full of trouble. He knew that man was going to need someone to help him on his journey, to be an encourager, to be his biggest cheerleader, to make him become a better man than he would be if he was alone, right? Right. Another thing, good communication skills. Whenever you're in, I don't care what relationship you're in, whether you're in a marriage, whether you're in a friendship, whether you're an employer, you need to have good communication skills. And when we talk about communication skills, it's not just about those verbal talking skills. Communication skills are only 7% verbal. It's also 38% your tone, and the other 55% is nonverbal. What are you doing as you're communicating? When are you saying it? All those things come into place when you talk about communication. And I'll give you two more. Like I said, there's many, but how do you minister to him sexually? That's a part of your ministry. All right? That's huge in a marriage. We know when you talk about that 50 to 60% of marriages that fail, you've got your top three: communication, finances, and sex. You have to take a look at that. And number 8, we hit on it a little bit more, but again, can you inspire him to become a better man? When he looks at you and when he says, wow, that's wife material right there, you have inspired something in him. He sees something in you that he doesn't see in others. You make him feel better about himself. So again, I submit those are just 8 of the qualities I've given to you today about what it would take to become an amazing wife.
Wow, girl, listen, I was over here taking notes so fast. Some things I know I need to work on myself, if I can be honest. But for the women who are currently single, engaged, maybe they're in situationships, they're unclear about what their relationship status is at this point. What are some of the first steps that they need to do now to prepare for marriage? Because like you said, we don't spend enough time preparing to be a wife. It's like, oh, we prepare for the wedding, we prepare for this big day. And then after that, most people are just like, okay, so now what? What is it that those can be doing right now to prepare for marriage?
Absolutely. And again, you know, those attributes are some good things to start working on in terms of your character and who you're becoming when we talked about what it takes to become an amazing wife. But really, you want to get back to the basics. You really want to get back to the foundations. And I'm speaking from a place of experience. Like I said, I've gone through 2 divorces. And that second one nearly took me down. And I really had to go back and take a look at what is it that I'm not getting. So as you're preparing for marriage and you've been, you've had these models in front of you. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. You know, we have these ideas that marriage is like Burger King. You can have it your own way. If that's not true, the Creator had a divine design in mind. And I encourage women to go back and look at, okay, what was the divine design? What is the purpose of marriage? What is the purpose of a wife, and what is the purpose of a husband? I mean, he can have a girlfriend. You guys can just be friends. Why is it that he needs a wife? Be clear on what your role is as a wife when you say you want to be married. Be clear on what his role is as a husband. Just that basic understanding alone is key to your preparation, because that really goes back to your mindset. Many of us have the wrong mindset as we're walking into marriage. And again, marriage is about purpose. So first, I always tell women, do you know who you are? Do you know who you are as a woman? Do you know what your purpose is? Because how are you going to look for a mate? He's not the only one that's looking, right? You're looking when he comes to you and says, you know what? I want you to be my wife. you should also, as a woman, be interviewing him on, is he a good husband? You know, is he someone that's going to be a good mate for me, for who I am as a woman, for who I am in my purpose? Am I going to be able to contribute to his purpose, right? When we talk about marriage being has a purpose, you need to know your own purpose first. So that's what you need to do first and foremost as you begin to prepare for marriage. Know who you are. I know at 24, I was 24 when I first got married. I didn't know who I was. I thought I knew who I was. I was being that person who I thought my family wanted me to be. I was in a career that my parents said that I should do, but I didn't really know who Kim was. So I encourage the single ladies who are listening today, if you're not clear on who you are as a woman, if you're not clear on your purpose, get clear on that first. And then get clear about really what God intended for marriage, because he's the one who created this institution. So he had a purpose in mind when he created the institution of marriage. Get clear on your role as a wife, and get clear on his role as a husband so that you're going into it better prepared. And then I also submit one of the things that I didn't know is not only the qualities of what it meant to be a good woman, not only the qualities of what it meant to be a good husband, but again, knowing how men work. They're very different from us. You know, we think we're the same beings, and some of the things about us are the same, but some of it is very different, which is why he came and brought us together, because we bring different things to the table. So you really need to understand men and how they work. They communicate differently. They internalize differently. They treat their emotions differently. And so if you're going to be in a relationship, a lifelong relationship with the other, you know, your spouse, you need to understand them.
Amen to that. Now, you mentioned the husband, like,
yeah,
is he a good husband, right? What are some qualities that women should look for in a man? So we know the foundation of characteristics that we should have as a woman, but what about the man?
Absolutely. Just like I said, you know, you can be a good woman. I always say you can be a good woman, but not be a good wife. You can be a wife and not be a good wife, as you talked about. You could be a bad wife, right? Right. Same holds true for men. You know, he could be a good man. A lot of times we date men who we say, oh, well, he's a good man. He could be a good man, but is he a good man in terms of a husband for you? Again, that goes back to you knowing your purpose and understanding, and he has to have an understanding of his purpose. He needs to be able to articulate that to you. So the first thing is, does he have a purpose? Is he aware of who he is and what he's been put on this earth to do? Does he understand his purpose? One, that's what you should be looking at. Two, you know, I also submit, does he have a relationship with the Creator? And, you know, I'm not just talking about from a Christian perspective, you know, whatever your spirituality is, does he have a relationship with the Creator? Has he submitted to a higher being, a higher authority that's guiding him and leading him in his principles and his values and his beliefs? That's important, because you want to make sure you're linking yourself with someone who has the same common values and beliefs and spirituality beliefs, right?
Yeah, you want to.
The other thing
I want to make sure you're submitting to the right person. You can't. A house divided cannot stand. One of you can't. You know, one of your faith can't be, you know, super strong, and then the other, they're just like not at all interested. Like, you definitely, like, I'm speaking from a Christian perspective, like, you have to be rooted in God. Like, it makes a huge difference. A huge difference.
Absolutely. Like you said, you don't want your house divided. The other thing that I also encourage women to take a look at is, again, when you're talking about a husband and understanding his role as a husband, one of his roles is to be a protector. You know, is he a good protector? Another thing I submit to is he responsible? This is something that I had difficulties with when you talk about my second marriage. Is he responsible? Is he responsible over his, you know, for himself? Is he responsible in terms of, you know, does he have a covering? over himself? Like, does he have a place where he lives that he's going to bring you into? You know, is he responsible? How does he handle his bills? How does he handle his finances? How does he handle those things that he's a steward over? That's the quality of a good husband. Also take a look at, is he an initiator? Is he an initiator, or are you the one that's always initiating things? When you talk about a man and being a good husband, a good man and being a good husband, he has to be an initiator. He has to be willing to make decisions. And again, be aggressive. You know, as you're making decisions, he's got to be able to stand up and make a decision. Is he nourishing? Is he someone who cherishes? He's got to be able to attend to your emotional needs. You know, that goes back to understanding each other. He has to understand you as a woman. He has to understand that you're an emotional being. Can he nourish you and cherish you and minister to you emotionally? That's huge, because a lot of times when women will say, well, he's a good husband because he's a good provider. Well, being a husband is just not about providing. It entails much, much more, right? So those are just a few things. There's many more. There's just a few. Those are just a few things.
Okay. And if you had to choose, what is and from your experience with talking with women and providing your services, what is it that you would say is the most thing that people, wait, I said that wrong. What is it that most people do not understand about marriage? I've said a couple things, but I think the biggest thing is they don't understand the purpose of marriage. They don't understand their roles as a husband and as a wife. Many times, like I said, women are just happy to get a ring on their finger. They're just thinking, oh, this thing is about companionship. It's much, much more than just companionship. And a lot of times what people don't understand about marriage is that they don't even understand themselves when they come to the table of marriage. And so you're bringing all this into a relationship that you haven't even solved and healed from yourself. So it's a lot. There's a lot of contributing factors to why marriages aren't successful. Right. Now, I'm sure that you also would suggest premarital counseling. So I hear a lot of people, I hear some people, they're on either side of the fence. They think, oh, everything's good. We don't need counseling. And then I hear people that say, things may be good now, but once you get married, everything changes. And I can attest to that. It is not easy whatsoever. And it's better to be proactive about those things rather than being reactive. So waiting until problems arise or having difficult conversations or discussions, especially when it comes to finances, your viewpoints on raising a child, how often you want to have sex, different things like that. That needs to be talked about way beforehand, before it becomes a problem. And so
Absolutely.
I'm almost certain that you would also suggest premarital counseling.
Absolutely. Premarital counseling is good. I definitely ascribe to premarital counseling, but what I really encourage women to do is, like you just said, take a look first. And that's why I say, know you. What are your beliefs? How do you handle your finances? Get clear on who you are and how you operate first, right? Because that's going to give you a better idea of that person that you need to hook up with. If you're both just carelessly spending, that's not going to be good. If you don't approach your finances in the same way necessarily, that may not be a good thing. If he doesn't believe in saving and you believe in saving and he's a spender, that's going to cause turmoil in your relationship. So I say it really starts even before the premarital counseling. I think a lot of counselors, ministers will tell you at the point that they've come to premarital counseling, they've already decided that they're going to get married. So why are you coming to premarital counseling? What are you looking for? A lot of people are just, looking to premarital counseling just for them to give them a few quick tips before they go to the altar. But really, premarital counseling is really helping you to see, is this person, are we well matched? Because if you look at premarital counseling in terms of just giving you skills to help you in your marriage, that's ongoing. It doesn't stop, after the 6 weeks leading to you getting married. Like you said, marriage is work. It's a journey. It's a lifelong journey. And there's going to be different seasons. And it's okay to ask for help because you've never been in this season. So when we say premarital counseling, what about, marital counseling? Don't just stop with the premarital counseling. Continue to get counseling because, again, you may think that, I know how marriage works based upon, I don't know, your parents or, God, I hope you're not looking at social media and reality TV to gauge on how you make this marriage thing work, right? Because that's not going to give you a good view. So don't think that, I have arrived now that I have the ring on. Continue to get counseling. That's why I started the Wife University. Continue to take your wife game to the next level because you're going to go through seasons in your marriage. You're going to need godly counsel, wisdom. That's why it says train up the wives. You older women, train up the younger women because you're going to need help through that journey of marriage. It's lifelong.
Right. Now, to talk a little more about the Wife University, what are some of the services that you offer for wives, current wives, and then wives to be the single women?
I really approach it in a holistic way. I do, one-on-one coaching and counseling. So I really sit down and have a clarity call with the individual when we're talking about doing one-on-one coaching to find out what is it they're looking to get out of my services in terms of what areas are they looking to work on? Where do they need help? With a single woman, it could be, I have trust issues, or it could be healing from the pain of the past, working on forgiveness. Working on some of those qualities we talked about how can I be more of an encourager, or how can I work on my communication skills. Some of the wives that I've helped and supported, again, we talked about seasons. I've helped women who now the children are out of the home, and it's like he and I are sitting here looking at each other when a lot of this journey has been just about raising the kids. So what do we do? How do we get back to that intimacy and getting to know each other, and now understanding what the purpose of our marriage is now that our kids are gone? A lot of times too, I have women who, again, struggle with, submission from the standpoint of now he's lost his job. He's no longer the sole provider, and now she's the provider. How do I still stay in my role as a wife and submit when I'm grinding all the time and he's at home watching TV and hasn't sent out one resume today? Those types of things are the things that I help and coach women on when we talk about the one-on-one coaching. I also do group coaching. Up until this point, it's all been through webinars. I've done a couple, preparing to be that good thing, and also helping women to heal and have hope after divorce. So those are a couple of the webinars that I do that you can take just right there in the comfort of your own home.
All right. And what about... I'll be right back after this message. Today's episode was brought to you by Anchor, my podcast host. I chose Anchor to host my podcast for several reasons. Number one, it's free. 2, the convenience. They have several creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. They even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on many different platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can make money from podcasting. Yes, you can make money with no minimum listenership. If you're interested in starting a podcast today, everything you need to know, you can learn at anchor.fm to get started. Thank you. For the women who are married, what can they do if their marriage has gotten like stale? They feel like they're no longer connecting. Like, for instance, in the example that you just gave about the children no longer being in the house, and they're like, they just feel like the children were the connection, but they're no longer there. What are some tips you can give listeners to keep things fresh or bring back vibrancy? And I also wanted to add that I was scrolling on Facebook just the other day, and there was like this post kind of like bashing marriage, saying that it's going to get to the point where things get boring. You're going to get tired of having sex with the same person, like just pretty much bashing marriage. And at that time, I think it had only been posted for like maybe 9 minutes, and there were almost 200 shares. And the people who were sharing it, they're just like, oh no, this ain't it. Like, I don't want to have this to look forward to. I guess I'll just stay single all of my life. And it was like heartbreaking. I get it that not everyone wants to be married, but that shouldn't be the end all be all. Like, there has to be some things, some resolutions to work through, them getting caught up in the mundane of life.
Right, absolutely. And it really is, again, about mindset. You do have to be intentional. And again, when you're going into this, this is one of those things that you guys should talk about, is how are we going to be intentional about our marriage? Because the marriage comes before the kids. That's the foundation. It was you and him before the kids even came along. And so, again, it really goes back to how you're going to approach marriage and how you view marriage. And you really do have to be intentional about it. And so, I encourage wives to set aside time weekly where you and your husband, you've got to carve out that time. You carve out the time for everything else. You carve out the time to take the kids to, their extracurricular activities, or you carve out the time to take that extra online course to get certified in something for your career. But you really have to be intentional when it comes to your marriage. It has to become a priority, because everything else is built on that foundation of your marriage. And so I tell women, be intentional. The wife whose kids have left now, go back and be intentional and spend time with your husband weekly. Turn off your cell phone, turn off the TV, and communicate. Talk to each other about things outside of the kids. We're not going to talk about the kids tonight. We're going to talk about you and I. And to say that things are going to get stale, that's a lie. The devil is a lie. How can it get stale? Because that's to say that you and I are going to be the same as we were when we married 2 years ago. I'm not even the same person that I was 6 months ago. So again, if you're married to me, we need to sit down and talk, because you need to know what's going on in my mind. You need to know what's going on with me. You need to know how I've evolved and what does this mean for our relationship. So it should never get stale if you truly, and this is a huge one for me, marry someone who is your best friend. Because it doesn't matter what happens in your relationship, you enjoy being around that person. Remember what inspired you in the first place to be with that person. What was it about them, right? And continue to be intentional about growing with them as they evolve. As each of you evolve, you should be interested in what your spouse is interested in. So it should never get stale across any platform, whether, you know what I'm saying, as you grow and develop. When you talk about bringing the intimacy and the vibrancy back into your relationship, again, that goes back to spending quality time together. Sometimes it's not about quantity, it's the quality of time you guys spend together. When you do set aside time to spend time together, again, don't both of you be on your phone on social media or, still taking business calls. Spend quality time with each other and have fun. I have to remind wives, have fun. That's what it was like when you were dating. You were going out, you were having fun, you were learning about each other, you were having conversations about your likes and dislikes and about your beliefs and your goals and what you wanted to accomplish. And you were going and trying new things in terms of when you were dating, go out, do putt-putt golf, go out and, I don't know, take a boat ride or Again, be intentional about knowing your partner and what their likes and dislikes are and what their interests are. If he likes hockey, go to a hockey game. It's important that you set aside that time to continue to create that strong bond.
Yes, I definitely agree. And especially, like, I have family members and I have close friends who have children, and they just feel like, once the child has come into the picture, everything's going to change. Like, it's not about you and him anymore. And I know that sometimes I can project my own personal opinions, and they may feel offended about what I say, but I'm like, no, it is about you and him. Like, that child should not get in the way of, doing those fun things. Like, that's what grandparents are for. That's what godparents are for.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Most of the time, I'm almost certain that people are willing to babysit, drop them off for a night for a fun night. Like, you have to get back to where it started, because if you make it strictly about that child and you idolize your child, your marriage will fall apart.
Right. And you have to create that support system. A support system is very, very important when you talk about being married and having children. And there's other couples out there too. So get an agreement with two other couples and say, hey, this week, I'm going to take all, they have 2 kids, you have 2 kids. Okay, I'll take the 6 kids for 3 hours tonight so that you two couples can go out and have an alone time. And next week is going to be our week. You know what I'm saying? Get creative with it. And like I said, even when you talk about creating date nights or romantic nights, again, it doesn't have to be expensive. You can lay out a blanket, put your candles in the living room floor, pour you a beverage, have a nice meal, feed each other. You can get creative. We have no excuses, Nakia. We live in this information age. We have things at our fingertips. You can Google, go to Pinterest, and get ideas to keep it fresh and keep it new. You have no excuses. So, when you talk about that post about, it's going to get old, as long as you guys are intentional and open, there's a world of things out there that you can do and get creative with.
Right. I definitely agree. I certainly agree. So if you found yourself in that place, or that's how you currently feel about marriage, please know that there is hope. Yes, it's hard work, but that is not the end all be all. Like, if that's the case, then you, like you said, you stop being intentional about making things work and having a great marriage. So that is not the case.
Right. And, I have a great example. Find something that you guys have a common interest in. I have a really good cousin of mine. He's into cars. So she got into cars. She knew that was a big interest for him. And she knew she wanted to create a bond, created some intimacy. So now they're a part of this Audi club. And they go, every other weekend to these Audi meetings, and everybody's into cars and talking about cars and racing. So again, get interested in whatever your spouse is interested in, and vice versa. And that's how you guys create and build, something that you guys do together. This is the one thing that we do together.
Right.
Find a common interest.
Absolutely. So what are some common mistakes that women make in relationships?
Oh, that's a good one. Good one. I think some of the things that women do, and one of the biggest things women do is that we talked about this a little bit, is they really don't know their value. They really don't know their value as a woman and what they bring to the table. And so they're really willing to settle for anything. In terms of not knowing their value, they've been hurt. They've experienced some bad relationships. So now going into the next relationship, they're just, as we say in this age, thirsty. So thirsty for a relationship that they've forgotten their value and what they bring to the table, and they haven't set standards. And so that's a common mistake that women are making, is not knowing their value. Just because that relationship failed, that doesn't take away from the person that you are and your value. Learn from that past relationship, learn where the mistakes were and what you can do differently, but still go forward confidently, knowing who you are, what you bring to the table, and just know that you have something to offer. And so don't settle. Another thing I think a lot of women of this day and age do is they over rely on their masculine energy. And what do I mean by that? We're so independent that when a man comes into the picture, they don't even really know, well, why am I here? We don't even want men to open doors for us anymore, allow them to even open doors for us anymore. We're just so independent. We got it down. We've got a good education. We got the career. We bought our own house. It's like, well, again, you're putting out so much of that masculine energy that I always say you're not even a graceful woman who just knows who she is and knows what he should be bringing to the table and know what you're bringing to the table. So that's another huge one that we don't understand about the chemistry between a man and a woman. And again, another huge one of mistakes women are making in relationships are they just don't understand men. They don't even know how to relate, and they don't understand why the relationships are failing. They're failing because you don't really understand the male. And so, again, do you know how to communicate with a man? Do you understand how they work? Do you know how to inspire him, to encourage him? Those are huge things when you talk about being in a relationship. A lot of times as women too, and I've been guilty of this, is that you're trying to change him versus trying to accept him as he is. When you're trying to change him, that leads you into becoming that complaining and nagging, ridiculing woman. That's not good. Don't try to change him. And again, a lot of times too, I think too, women can bring, I won't say all women, but a lot of women bring drama, and men hate drama. So if you wonder why your relationship is failing, you might want to take a look at those things. Are you a drama queen? Are you too emotional? Are you always mad about something and complaining? Don't bring drama.
Amen. I definitely agree with understanding your man. So something that was like pivotal in my relationship when we were just dating, we went to my church had this, it was a love and marriage night, and they were talking about, dating. It was for people who are dating, seriously dating, like engaged, and for people who are already married. And we really spent a lot of time talking about love languages. And for me, I'm a person who I love organization, and I like stuff to be intact around me. I hate a dirty house. I can't stand it. So to me, if you cook for me, if you clean for me, those are the things that makes me just go crazy about you, right? But I had to understand, so naturally, whatever your love language is, that's your first go-to when you're trying to make someone happy, right? So naturally, I was if I cook my husband some food, if I clean, if I fold his clothes, this would just make him so happy. But that didn't always work, right? And so that's absolutely very pivotal, because I learned that actually his love language was words of affirmation. And I know for me, I always thought, well, I don't need someone to always affirm or, say good things. I can tell that to myself, but I didn't realize that that's something that he actually needs, and he needs on a daily basis. So when I send him that encouraging text, or, if I leave him a love letter, or if we have a conversation and I just let him know that I believe in what he's doing and, what his hopes and aspirations are, just giving him that extra push, that's what gets him excited and just, crazy about me. So that's something that we had to learn earlier on. And for him, it was the same on his end. He would be telling me, he would be giving me those words of affirmation. I appreciated it, but it wasn't something that's just made me, head over heels for him. It's just okay, just another nice thing you said. But that's something that we had to kind of learn about each other. And I'm so happy that we did, because we understand now. And for him, it's he'll buy me a gift or something. Yes, they're great, but that's not really what I desire, right? I'm of service person. So I would also encourage, if you're dating, engaged, married, and you have never walked through your partner's love language, that's something that you should absolutely do. And it really will help you to understand who they are. And furthermore, I was curious, once I found out about him needing words of affirmation, I was then curious about was there ever a time in your life where people doubted you? Is there some self-doubt? And that was a very good conversation. And it put the pieces of the puzzle together. So that made us better.
Absolutely. And it goes back to that point that I made about it, how it's critical for you to know who you are, but it's also critical for them to know who they are. Because again, if marriage is a ministry and you're there to minister to them, and they say, well, I don't like it when you do that. Okay, well, what would you prefer me to do? Well, I don't know. I just don't like it when you do that. See, that's a person who doesn't really know their own needs. They don't even understand how they work. So it's hard for them to even tell you how to minister. So then you're just constantly shooting in the dark. So like you said, not only knowing yourself and what your love language is, it's important to know what their love language is. And it's important for them to know so that they can articulate to you, hey, this is what I need. This is where I thrive the best. This is what would help me. And that comes from a healthy perspective of knowing who they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Another thing I wanted to mention before we get off this point about mistakes women make, another huge one is looking for a man to complete them. Ooh. Not to say that you want to be in a relationship. There's nothing wrong, and you should be. Again, God created marriage. You should want to be a wife. There's nothing wrong with that. But the key thing that I want to hone in is he cannot complete you. If there's some void in your life, again, that you have, a man is not going to complete you. So don't look for a man to fill any void that you may have. Figure out where that void is coming from. And don't look for a man, because when you get married, he's going to fail miserably trying to fill that void. And so again, you need to I encourage women, do not look for a man to complete you. And when you do that, when you're looking for a man to complete you, you come off as very needy. You come across as very desperate. And then you're going to get the wrong kinds of men taking advantage of you, because they can see that a mile away. They can see it a mile away. And even to the wives, when you talk about looking for your husband to complete you, that's so unfair. He cannot complete you. You have to know what makes you tick. You have to have a purpose, and again, an interest outside of your husband, because that's just too big of a burden for him to bear.
Absolutely. I certainly agree. Is there anything else before we wrap it up today that you had to say, or if you would like to share your information on how today's listeners can get connected with you, if they would like some one-on-one coaching or even some group coaching, how they can get in contact with you?
Absolutely. Of course, you can reach out to me via my website, which is www.thewifeuniversity.com. You can direct message me through any of my social media platforms. I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. Both of those are through The Wife University on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also email me directly at thewifeuniversity@gmail.com. I would love to speak with you and support you in any way that I can. Set up a free clarity coaching call so we can dig in and find out how I can best support you. I would also like to put in a shameless plug for my new book project called Purpose Pushers. As we've been talking a lot about knowing your purpose and knowing the purpose of marriage, I do have a new book out. You can find that on my website also, Purpose Pushers. So thank you. And again, Nikia, thank you for having me on today. It has been a blessing to me. Hopefully it has been a blessing to those who are listening.
Absolutely. I'm definitely going to be following up with you for your services. And wives, especially if you already think that you got it in the bag, I'm a good wife already. Like she said, she helps you to get to that next level. Like we should always be intentional about being better every single day. That's something that I'm working on. And it just takes a lot of honesty with yourself. But please,
Absolutely.
like you're like, I got it, I got this, I don't need help, because that's a sign that you're probably just complacent, and complacency is not a good thing, especially when it comes to marriage. That's how you'll end up in that stale, dry marriage, and we don't want that for you. So I know I'm certainly going to be following up to see how you can help me on this journey, because again, I'm new in this thing and I already know it's a struggle, but we trying.
That's absolutely right.
Well, thank you so much again for being a part of this amazing episode. I speak blessings and favor over you and your ministry, all of the great things that you have going on. And I'm sure that the Yellow Room family is very, very, very excited to have heard all the great things that you shared today. Yellow Room family, please do me a huge favor. I already asked at the beginning of this episode, but please share with a friend or two. Also, be sure to share your takeaways, anything like that, via your social media platforms, so we can get this good message out. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. If you are new here, please consider subscribing on whatever platform you're listening in on today. Leave me a rating, leave me a review, comment, whatever you feel that you want to do. If you already consider yourself a part of the Yellow Room family, please consider making a small monthly donation to sustain and contribute to my growing platform. No amount is too small. Donations can be made at anchor.fm/theyellowroom/support. If you are unable to, I still love you just the same. You can still support me by listening, sharing, and providing feedback. I thank you all so much, and I appreciate your continued listenership. Thank you.